Did your grandparents or your parents ever call the refrigerator an icebox? Well, I remember hearing that term when I was a kid. I knew what they meant because they taught me that the icebox was a big box that was really a refrigerator when I was about 3 or 4. But I have here an icebox cake. That's what it's called. It's a strawberry lemon icebox cake. It's kind of made like tiramisu because you make it with Ladyfinger cookies. And you put it together and put it in the refrigerator in the icebox and let it sit there for 24 hours. And we're going to see how it turns out. To start off, I'm going to put a metal mixing bowl and the beaters for the whipped cream into the freezer so that it has a chance to get really cold. For this recipe, I'm going to need 3 tablespoons of lemon zest, so I'm going to use finely grated. So I can grate it on this or use whatever kind of grater or planer you have until you, I just did too much, until you get 3 tablespoons. Well, now that I have the lemon zest, from 3 lemons that are pretty good size, this is only 1 tablespoon, so I think that was a typo. So now I'm going to juice the lemons until I get 1/3 of a cup of juice, and this is how I do it. Unless I have a whole lot to do, then I have an electric one. And I will use a small strainer to strain out the seeds. The pulp would be okay, but I want to get as much juice as possible out of these. And then I'll strain it. And that was 1 lemon. And I am almost getting 1/3 of a cup just from this. Because these lemons were really juicy. I like to, when I test them, by the way, I squeeze them at the store, and if the skin seems thin, I'll buy it. If the skin seems really thick, I won't buy it, because if the skin is really thick, then there isn't much juice in them. So I won't need a whole lot of this one. So I can already tell that I almost have 3/4 of a cup. And I drink lemon water every morning anyway. So let's see how much I'll do to get 1/3 of a cup. And that's about it. And then we're ready for the next steps. First, we're going to make the lemon pudding. I haven't turned on the stove yet, and I have a medium-sized saucepan, and I'm putting in 1 cup of sugar, and then 1/4 cup of either cornstarch or arrowroot. I'm using arrowroot. And then 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Everything's white. And then I'm just going to carefully whisk that together. Of course I am. And then to that I'm going to add 2 3/4 cup of whole milk. I'm going dairy this time. And 1/2 cup of whipping cream. And then that lemon juice that I just did, the 1/3 cup of lemon juice, and the lemon zest. And now I'm going to turn on the heat and to medium high, and I'm going to whisk. Alright, and then I'm going to add, now that these are mixed together, I'm going to add 1 egg. Break it up and whisk. Or you can whip the egg before you put it in the pan. You can even use a larger pan if you want. Alright, so now the idea is it's pudding, so I have to whisk it constantly, and Yeah, you have to stand here. You can't walk away. And when the mixture starts to thicken and you start to see bubbles on the surface, then we're going to change the heat to medium. So I'm going to pause the video at this point and we'll come back when it is. Okay, so it's really started to thicken, and when I stop doing the whisking, I can see bubbles on the surface. So I'm going to turn the heat down to medium, and now I'm going to whisk it constantly and very vigorously for about 45 seconds to a minute. So actually, I'll start my timer, and I probably will fast forward here. Okay, so that's the end of that, and next I'm going to strain this. So I've turned off the heat, and now I'm going to pour this through, and you'll notice this is it's a strainer, but it's metal mesh to get really fine. I want to turn that so you can see. And probably give this a little bit of help. Okay, so any little solids aren't going to make it through. Like, it's basically what we're left with is the lemon zest. So let's set that aside. Okay, so now I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, and then I have a 1/4 teaspoon of lemon extract, which comes in a little bottle like this. And I'm going to whisk till that butter melts. The butter came right out of the refrigerator. And after this, I'm just going to let it cool on the kitchen counter here. And when I assemble the icebox cake, it's okay if this is warm. I'll still want it to be pourable. I don't want it to be overly thick. And then while that's cooling, I'll make the whipped cream. I took the bowl out of the freezer and the beaters, and I'm going to put in 1½ cups of whipping cream, and I'm going to beat it on medium until it starts to thicken up. Thick. So now I have 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar. Easier to do that with it up. And I also have a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I'm going to start out slowly so that the sugar doesn't... Actually, I changed my mind. To make sure that the sugar isn't powdery, it's all mixed in. I want to whip this puppy on high. So we know it's thick when it's holding itself together like that. The other thing you want to do is slice up. Here I have an entire container of strawberries that I rinsed off and pulled off the little green stem, and then sliced into slices that can be arranged on the icebox cake. Alright, I'm finally ready to assemble this, and I'm using an 8x8 pan, which is what the recipe said to use. But then in the picture, they used a loaf pan, which of course is taller and more narrow, and they said if you do a loaf pan, you need to, line it with plastic wrap that's overhanging the sides, and then you can pull it out after it's refrigerated, but then you have to serve the whole thing, and I might not be serving this whole thing, so I'm using this. So it says to start out with a layer of the lemon pudding, which is thick but pourable. The interesting thing is the directions they give for how to arrange the slices is different than what the picture shows, and hopefully I'm going to scan the picture because it wasn't available online so I can show you what it looks like. But in the instructions they say pudding first, then ladyfingers, then strawberries, then pudding, and ladyfingers and strawberries. But in the picture it's clearly the other way around. So I have a package of ladyfingers here, and it said you'll need a package of 24, and that's exactly how many are in the package I bought. And they said to go ahead and break them because you need them all touching each other. So I imagine I can just break them over this, and little crumbs can just go right in here. But I can see I'm going to have a little bit of space, which is interesting. Maybe I would just want to put it like that. I don't know. Kind of like making a tiramisu. Because you really, I don't know, you don't really want space over here. I don't know. I'm making it up as I go. I don't know. Should I put one in here? Maybe not. Maybe down the side here. I'm almost done with the package 12. So we'll see. Okay. And then I reserved some strawberries over here that are the ends for the top, which is something they suggest you do. So obviously if I was doing a loaf pan, I'd be like half the size and I've had more layers. So while I'm putting these strawberries down, what I'll probably do is speed up the video so you don't have to watch this whole thing. Broken. And they said whatever layer you wind up with is what you wind up with. I don't know. I'm out of strawberries unless I do more here, but then I'm going to overflow, so I have more pudding. So I'm just going to do more pudding. So I can see why the loaf pan might be a great idea, but again, it's best if you pull the whole thing out and serve the whole thing at one time. You want to get them all covered because these will become cake-like as they do with tiramisu. tiramisu is made with Ladyfingers. I guess you could call tiramisu an icebox cake. A little bit to do on this end over here. If you have a deeper square dish, deeper than mine, a regular cake pan, that would be ideal. Just trying to get all those little bits of cookie covered. And then on top of this, I'm going to put a layer. It says to put the whipped cream on top and then cover it with plastic wrap. Oh Lord, I don't know. It just doesn't seem deep enough. And I've got all this whipped cream, so I think I'm gonna, it said you'll have extra. Oh brother, okay. All right. And then the thing is, you have to refrigerate it for 24 hours. So yeah, we're not even eating this yet. Oh, it's going to overflow. Don't want that. Oh boy. You know, I do film these things the first time I try something a lot of times, so that's what happened this time. It's not, I haven't made this before. It's a no-bake icebox cake. What could be so hard? What could be so hard is that it's not, it's too deep. Oh God, it's like coming out over here. Oh my gosh. Well, it might, it might be best to use a loaf pan and to just have extra pudding to just put in bowls. Okay, so I oh gosh, that's funny. It's like oozing out the sides. I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap next and put it in the refrigerator overnight. So here it is. At the end, I cut a piece out and you can see kind of the layers, and before it slides apart, here's a pretty big size piece and some strawberries on top. So that is what I am calling my icebox cake. Strawberry lemon icebox cake.